My name is Ethan Miller, and I am 12 years old from a small town outside Lansing, Michigan. And until last spring, I thought families always stayed loyal no matter what, but that belief shattered the week. And my uncle vanished, and my mom broke down in front of me. I had never seen her cry like that, not loud, not dramatic, just silent tears sliding down while she stared at her phone like it had betrayed her. My mom raised me alone after my dad left when I was little, and she always told me we were strong because we survived together. She worked at a local credit union, wore tired smiles every evening, and still made time to quiz me for school and listen to my stories about science club. She trusted people, maybe too much, especially family. Her younger brother Ryan was one of those people. From the time she was a teenager, she had practically raised him. After their parents split, Grandpa moved south, chasing a new life, and Grandma worked non-stop, leaving Mom to handle homework, dinners, and everything else. Ryan grew up knowing she would catch him every time he fell, and maybe that was the problem. He never learned how to stand on his own. By the time I was born, he was already used to being rescued. Money, rides, excuses. Mom always helped, even when it hurt her. She never said no, because she believed blood meant responsibility. After her divorce, things were harder. We lived in a small house with creaky floors, but she made it feel safe. She saved every extra dollar, explaining to me why we could not eat out much or buy fancy things. She said it was for our future emergencies, college, maybe even retirement. I did not fully understand, but I trusted her like kids do. Ryan showed up more often around that time, usually with stories about bad luck, lost jobs, or unfair bosses. He always had a reason, and Mom always listened. Then came his girlfriend Claire. She smiled a lot, but her eyes never did. When she visited, she looked around our house too carefully, asking questions about Mom's job, her schedule, even how online banking worked. I felt weird about it, but I was just a kid, so I stayed quiet. A few weeks later, Mom had a big work conference out of state, and Ryan offered to stay with me. She hesitated, then agreed because he was family. The first night after she left, everything seemed normal. We ordered pizza, watched movies, and Claire kept checking her phone. The second night, I noticed them whispering in the kitchen when they thought I was asleep. I was playing on my tablet, recording a silly video for my friend, and forgot to turn it off. I did not know then that small mistake would change everything. 2 days later, Mom came home early. She walked in smiling, then froze. The guest room was empty. Their bags gone, no note, no message. Her phone rang, and she dropped it when she opened her banking app. Her face went pale. She sank onto the couch like her legs stopped working. I asked what was wrong, and she whispered, "Everything is gone, every account empty." I felt my chest tighten like the air disappeared. She called the bank, then the police, then Ryan, over and over. But no one answered that night. She sat at the table staring at nothing. And that was when I remembered the video on my tablet, the one I never deleted. And what I heard on it made my stomach twist, because it proved this was not just a mistake. It was planned, and what I showed her next would turn our whole family upside down. If you think this part was intense, wait until you hear what was on that recording, and how it led to a phone call none of us were ready for. I sat beside my mom that night, holding my tablet like it weighed 100 pounds. She looked so tired, smaller somehow, and I knew whatever I was about to show her would hurt. But keeping it secret felt worse. I opened the video file and pressed play. At first, it was just my voice joking about building a fort. Then the sound shifted, and their voices filled the room. Claire sounded calm, almost cheerful, talking about timing and access, saying things like, "Once she is gone, it will be easy." Ryan answered, quieter, nervous, asking if it was safe. Claire laughed and said she had done this before, and no one ever noticed. My mom covered her mouth, her eyes filling again, but this time with something sharper than sadness. The video kept going. Claire mentioned passwords she already had, and how family always trusts too much. Ryan said he did not want to hurt my mom, and Claire replied that borrowing was not stealing. If you planned to disappear first. The room felt cold, even though the heater was on. When it ended, my mom did not speak for a long time. She hugged me tight and said, "I am so sorry you had to hear that." I told her there was more. Over the next hour, we watched 3 more recordings, each worse than the last one. Had Claire on the phone using a different name, laughing about Florida. Another showed Ryan agreeing to leave right after the transfer. My mom saved everything and thanked me in a voice that sounded like it came from far away. The next morning, we went to the police station. I stayed close, holding her hand while she explained everything. The detective listened carefully, especially when he saw the videos. He nodded slowly and said, "This changes things." He told us Claire matched someone they had been looking for under another name. Hearing that made my stomach drop, because it meant this was bigger than us. Days passed, heavy and quiet. Mom barely slept, checking her phone, jumping at every sound. Then one afternoon her phone rang. She answered and went pale again. It was Ryan calling from a blocked number. His voice cracked, begging, crying, saying he made a mistake, that Claire tricked him, that he would fix everything. Mom listened without interrupting, then said one sentence, "I never forgot you chose this," and hung up. She cried after, but she did not call back. Grandma called next, saying family forgives. Grandpa texted saying boys make errors. Mom stood firm, even when it hurt. The police called 2 days later, saying they found them at a motel in Florida, near where Grandpa lived. They were arrested without trouble. I felt relief mixed with something ugly like loss, even though I did not want to miss them. Court happened months later. I did not attend, but Mom told me everything. Claire faced serious charges. Because of her past, Ryan got probation and restitution. Mom cut contact completely, even when Grandma begged. Life slowly settled again. Money did not all come back, but enough did. Mom got a promotion and smiled more. I joined coding club and learned how to protect data, which felt important. Now we talked about trust a lot, about how love does not mean allowing harm. Looking back, I understand something most adults avoid, saying that sometimes the bravest thing is walking away, even from blood. And just when we thought it was over, a letter arrived in the mail that made my mom sit down hard, because it changed how this story really ended. And you will not believe who it was. From the letter arrived on a gray afternoon, when the sky looked like it could fall at any moment. I was doing homework at the kitchen table, while my mom sorted mail, standing by the counter. She froze halfway through opening one envelope, her fingers tightening like she might tear it in half. Her face drained of color, and she slowly sat down without saying a word. I asked what it was, and she slid the paper toward me. It was from Ryan, written in shaky handwriting from somewhere he was not allowed to leave. He said he was sorry again, but this time the words felt different, heavier. He admitted things he had denied before, saying Claire did not force him, that he had known exactly what he was doing. He wrote that when he heard about the recordings, he realized I had saved us, and that thought had kept him awake every night. He asked to see me, not to be forgiven. Just to explain, my mom read it twice, then folded it carefully and put it away. That night, she told me the truth that scared me most. She said, when someone hurts you deeply, they often come back asking for peace, but peace does not always mean letting them in. She asked how I felt, and I told her I did not hate him, but I did not trust him either. She nodded like that was the answer she expected. Weeks later, another letter came, then another, each one calmer, less desperate. Ryan stopped blaming anyone but himself. He talked about therapy, about learning why he always needed someone else to carry his weight. He said losing us forced him to finally look at himself. That was when Mom surprised me. She said she would allow one meeting, not for him, but for closure, and only if I wanted to be there. I thought about it for days, imagining the uncle who used to sneak me candy and the man who emptied our future. Finally, I said yes. The meeting room was small with a glass wall. Ryan looked older, thinner. When he saw me, his eyes filled, but he did not cry. He apologized to me, first saying he stole more than money. He stole my sense of safety that mattered. He did not ask for forgiveness. He said he understood if he never got it. Mom spoke next, calm and steady, saying boundaries were permanent, even if contact was possible someday. This was not a reset. It was a consequence. Ryan nodded and accepted it. When we left, I felt lighter, like something heavy had finally been named. Life kept moving forward. Mom kept rebuilding, not just finances, but peace. She stopped answering calls from people who minimized what happened. I learned that adults do not always protect you. Sometimes kids protect them too. School got better. I focused harder, joined competitions, even won a small award for a cybersecurity project about protecting families online. Mom cried happy tears that time one evening months later. She told me she was proud, not because I helped catch criminals, but because I trusted my instincts even when adults did not. That stayed with me. Now, when I think about family, I think less about blood and more about behavior. Love shows up in choices, not excuses. The past does not disappear, but it does lose power when you stop letting it control your future. And just when we believed every chapter was closed, a call came from an unknown number that made my mom answer, then slowly sit down again, because the voice on the other end belonged to someone we never expected to hear from. And what they offered would test everything we had learned. The voice on the phone belonged to my grandfather, the one who moved south years ago and barely stayed part of our lives. He sounded older, slower, and not as confident as I remembered. He said he had been following everything from a distance and wanted to talk. Mom put the phone on speaker and sat at the table, gripping her coffee mug like an anchor. Grandpa said he felt responsible, that letting Ryan lean on others his whole life had helped create this mess. He claimed he wanted to make things right. Then he said the words that made my mom inhale sharply. He offered money, not just a little, but enough to cover what we lost. He said it was from selling a property, and that helping us would clear his conscience. The room went silent. I looked at my mom, waiting. She closed her eyes for a long moment and asked one question: "Are there conditions?" Grandpa hesitated, then admitted he hoped this would help reunite the family and ease Ryan's path later. That was enough. Mom thanked him for the offer and declined. She said help with strings is not help, it is control. Grandpa grew frustrated, saying pride should not get in the way of family survival. Mom replied that survival was never the issue, dignity was. The call ended without good. I felt proud, but also scared, because saying no to that kind of money felt impossible to me. Later, Mom explained that accepting it would have reopened doors we worked hard to close. Money can rebuild accounts, but it can also rebuild old patterns. Weeks passed quietly again, until another twist came, this time from the bank. An internal review connected to the case highlighted Mom's handling of the situation, her integrity, and how she protected client-level data. Even under personal loss, they offered her a regional role overseeing multiple branches. It meant more responsibility and more stability. but also longer hours. She asked me what I thought. I told her I would rather have less time and more peace than the other way around. She smiled and accepted anyway, promising balance. We celebrated with cheap takeout and laughter that night. I realized something important. Our story was no longer about what was taken, but about what was chosen. Every boundary, every refusal, every hard conversation had shaped a safer future. And just when life seemed steady again, a final message arrived that would force my mom to choose between justice and mercy in a way neither of us saw coming. And the choice she made would define who we became from that moment. On the message came through email late at night. While my mom was reviewing reports on her laptop, I was already in bed when I heard her call my name, not loud, just steady, the way she does when something serious happens. I sat beside her and read the screen together. It was from the state restitution office explaining that Ryan compliance had been reviewed, and there was an option available if my mom agreed to submit a statement supporting reduced penalties. His remaining restitution timeline could be shortened significantly. The email was careful with words, but the meaning was clear. Her voice mattered now more than the courts, more than the past. My chest tightened because this was not about money anymore. It was about power and forgiveness. My mom leaned back and stared at the ceiling like she was counting breaths. She told me this was the moment people talk about when they say closure, but closure does not always feel peaceful. Sometimes it feels heavy, like carrying two futures at once, one where she stood firm and one where she softened. She asked me again what I felt, not because she needed permission, but because she valued honesty. I told her I believed people could change, but change did not erase consequences. I said, if he truly understood, then he would accept whatever came without asking us to lighten it. She nodded slowly. That night she wrote her statement. It was not angry or cruel, it was honest. She described the harm, the fear, the long rebuilding, and the boundaries that saved us. She acknowledged Ryan's effort in treatment, but made it clear that accountability was part of healing too. When she sent it, she did not cry. She slept peacefully for the first time in a long while. Weeks later, we learned the decision. Ryan penalties remained unchanged. He wrote once more, after that, not begging this time, just thanking her for being fair. He said fairness hurt, but it also freed him. Because excuses were gone, I respected that even if I never fully trusted him, life continued in quiet ways. I grew taller, stronger, more confident. Mom settled into her new role, traveling sometimes, but always calling at night. We built routines again, dinners, walks, jokes that only made sense to us. Story stopped defining us. It became something we learned from, not lived inside. One afternoon at school, I gave a presentation on ethics in technology and told a version of our experience without names. I said protection is not just firewalls and passwords, it is listening when something feels wrong. People clapped, and my teacher said it was brave. When I told my mom, she hugged me and said, you turned pain into purpose. Months later, on a sunny morning, we received final notice that the restitution account was closed. What we had lost was mostly returned over time, not perfectly, but enough. The paper felt lighter than I expected because it no longer held our safety. We did one night, sitting on the porch watching fireflies. My mom asked me what I thought family meant now. I told her family is who protects your future, not who feels entitled to it. She smiled like she had been waiting to hear that. And just when I believed every lesson had been learned and every door closed, something unexpected happened that reminded me growth is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new one, and what came next would prove how far we had really come. The unexpected thing happened on a normal day, which somehow made it feel bigger. I came home from school and found my mom sitting at the kitchen table, smiling at nothing. For a moment, Before she noticed me, she told me to sit, and then slid a folded paper across the table. It was an acceptance letter not for me, but for her. She had been nominated months earlier by someone at work for a national leadership program for ethical banking practices, and she had been selected, one of only a few from across the country. The letter talked about integrity, courage, and doing the right thing even when it costs you something. Reading those words made my throat tighten because I knew exactly what moments they were talking about. This was not just a career win, it was proof that choosing honesty over comfort mattered. We celebrated quietly again because that was our way. Pete's a movie night, laughter on the couch. Later that week, something else happened that felt like the universe closing a circle. Ryan sent one last letter through his attorney. It was short. He said he was transferring to a different state to start over after probation ended, and that he did not plan to contact us again unless invited. He thanked my mom for not rescuing him this time because it forced him to grow. He thanked me too for seeing what adults missed and said he hoped I never doubted my instincts again. My mom read it once, then placed it in a box she labeled past. She did not burn it or hide it. She just set it down where it belonged. Over the next year, life became something we lived instead of survived. I joined a national coding competition and placed second. My project focused on digital safety for families, and it won attention from people way older than me. Mom attended every event she could, even when work was busy, cheering louder than anyone else. We talked often about how fear can disguise itself as loyalty, and how love should never require silence. The house felt lighter. Holidays were peaceful without forced calls or guilt trips. We created our own traditions: pancakes, late morning walks, handwritten notes on the fridge. One evening, while cleaning the garage, we found an old photo of Mom and Ryan as kids. She stared at it quietly, then said, "Loving someone does not mean carrying them forever. Sometimes it means setting them down so they can learn to walk." I realized then that forgiveness does not always look like reunion. Sometimes it looks like acceptance. Without access, the biggest change was inside me. I stopped seeing myself as just a kid who got lucky with a recording and started seeing myself as someone whose voice mattered. That confidence followed me everywhere: at school, at competitions, in how I spoke up for friends. My mom once told me that pain either shrinks you or sharpens you, and we had been sharpened together. On the anniversary of everything, we took a trip to Lake Michigan. We stood barefoot in the sand, watching the water stretch endlessly. Mom asked if I ever wished things had turned out differently. I thought for a long time, then said no, because we became stronger than we would have been otherwise. She smiled and said that was the real inheritance: not money, not property, but strength. As the sun set, I understood that our story was never about betrayal alone. It was about boundaries, courage, and choosing peace, even when it costs you people. And if you are listening to this wondering what you would do in our place, remember this: sometimes the bravest thing is not holding on, but letting go and trusting that protecting your future is worth more than preserving a past that no longer serves you.